What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Saturdays Only. Today, we are going to be discussing a big-time commitment out of the college football transfer portal. Thomas Castellanos, the former quarterback of the Florida State Seminoles, the Boston College Eagles, and the University of Central Florida. Apologize for my language there. University of Central Florida Golden Knights. The quarterback, Thomas Castellanos, has been a playmaker ever since he stepped in college football. It says here he's listed 5'11". That's a little generous. I'd give him more 5'9", 5'10". But the dude's a dog. Not going to lie. I love some Thomas Castellanos. He's been one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch in college football ever since he stepped foot, in the college football world, on the landscape, on the field. I love me some Thomas Castellanos. Obviously, people remember him for last year calling his shot, saying, "You don't have Nick Saban anymore, Alabama. We're going to beat y'all." And he was a man of his word, causing one of the best upsets of last year. And in today's video, we're just going to be talking and reacting about Thomas Castellanos' commitment to the Texas Tech Raiders, what this means for Texas Tech. What is this really going to do for their quarterback room? Is this going to, disrupt what Will Hammond did? And what are the expectations for him and for the quarterback room as we go on? So just a quick rundown of Thomas Castellanos' stats as a quarterback last season. He threw for 2,760 yards. Also, he started all 12 games for the Florida State Seminoles. He had a 58% completion percentage, 15 total touchdowns through the air, 9 interceptions, and a 143 passer rating. He also carried the ball 137 times, 557 rushing yards, and 9 rushing touchdowns. So over 3,300 yards of total offense and 24 total touchdowns. So he's a legitimate dual threat quarterback that can create in the run, on the pass. I really, really love watching Thomas Castellanos play quarterback. He is such a fun quarterback and knows how to operate, a Gus Malzahn system very well, which is what he ran last year at Florida State. Now, a little bit of a difference when he goes to Texas Tech, but obviously Texas Tech is needy of a quarterback. As you guys all remember, the number 2 player in the transfer portal, Brendan Sorsby, the quarterback out of Cincinnati, committed, was going to be the Texas Tech starting quarterback for the 2026 season, and all the gambling stuff came out, all the broken rules and everything like that, and he was somehow granted eligible to play after breaking all the rules. And the dude was awesome, and he said, "I am not going to play, and I'm going to be a man of my word, and I'm going to have integrity." And that was pretty awesome. So Joey McGuire and the Texas Tech Raiders were scrambling to find a starting quarterback. And, they were like, we're going to rely on a guy who, played some games for us last year and actually had some meaningful snaps. And Will Hammond, a young sophomore quarterback who was not bad at all when he played. But, of course, with this new TRO, with the new injunction, with the new 5-for-5 rule, players who, graduated, who played 4 years of college football, who had not gone to the NFL or done a draft process or had, done anything NFL-wise, could return to college football. Now, Thomas Castellanos is one of those players. He was pretty big in them changing it from, oh, you can return to college football, but you cannot transfer. And Thomas Castellanos and his attorney and a lot of other people were able to get that transfer portal open, which has caused a lot of crazy stuff like Daquan Wright and Xavier Harris transferring to LSU. So he brings 38 college games and 32 starts to Texas Tech. This is what they needed. They needed a veteran in the quarterback room. They needed a quarterback who can lead the offense and has also seen a lot of football and seen a lot of big-time football. I mean, this guy was starting at Florida State, Boston College, and UCF. Obviously UCF and Boston College are a little bit smaller Power 4 schools, but he's played Power 4 football in 3 meaningful conferences. So, very, very impressive resume, in my personal opinion, as a quarterback. Obviously his biggest weapon is his legs. He gives it another dimension that Baron Morton couldn't bring last year as a quarterback and over the past 3 years. You can run all sorts of stuff. You can start to run these RPOs, read options, QB power runs, and empty formations. Defenses can't simply play traditional playback football, drop back football with Thomas Castellanos under center, and I feel like the reason why Texas Tech really wanted him, was an insurance option after after Brendan Sorsby left, and an insurance option, behind Will Hammond. Obviously, the college football season starts in a little under 2 weeks for Texas Tech. You know, I bet they've already run through spring, already run through fall, but I think what that shows, through spring ball, through fall ball, it didn't look too good with Will Hammond. Maybe there were some, grumblings that, hey, maybe we should reach our hands into the fifth year, player portal and see what we can get. And I think they wound up with the best quarterback in this fifth year, this August transfer portal window in Thomas Castellanos. It could be, a huge advantage for Texas Tech. If Hammond struggles, Texas Tech can suddenly have a quarterback who has started so many games, has over 6,400 career passing yards and nearly over 2,000 rushing yards, more than any running back on the squad, that they have. It's pretty impressive. So, I'm really excited to see Thomas Castellanos suit up in the Red Raider uniform. Obviously, I'm not a Red Raider fan myself, but I love college football and I love dual threat quarterbacks. So your question is probably, how is this guy able to play and was granted another season of eligibility? So he wasn't granted another season of eligibility by the NCAA. But he was, after the court ruling in Louisiana, the TRO, the fifth season of eligibility was granted to him, and he was able to enter the transfer portal. So that temporary restraining order that was released allowed Thomas to enter the transfer portal and find a new suitor, find a new school. And that's huge for Texas Tech. Big 12 football is going to be a little bit more interesting this year, because obviously Texas Tech was the clear-cut number one school in the Big 12. And after Sorsby left, that raised a lot of questions for the offensive side of the ball for Texas Tech. Maybe Houston could take the reins. Maybe BYU could take the reins for number one. Maybe it, be Utah. And now with this decision, Texas Tech could be back in the front runner as a big leader in the Big 12 and in the championship race. Let's see what they can do, And the expectations for him, obviously, I expect him not to start immediately. This dude's about to open up a playbook for the first time and have a game in 2 weeks. It just doesn't work like that. High school football, players, it doesn't even work like that. So what I'm expecting is Thomas Castellanos to probably sit a couple games and maybe get some play time in games against Group of 5 schools, FCS schools, see what he can do. And Joe McGuire's going to weigh his options once the Big 12 schedule starts and once the grind starts, But this is just awesome for Texas Tech. I'm emphasizing here the amount of experience that he has had. He is entering into he's in the top 5, probably top 3 of all college football quarterbacks in experience, in starts, in playtime. He brings a lot of veteran experience that this quarterback room needs, that Behren Morton brought. That's why I think they made the playoff last year. Behren Morton, of course, was not this specimen athletic quarterback. He was a guy who was a game manager, pretty good arm, understood the game pretty well, and he was a veteran. He was in that system for years. Different with Thomas. Thomas is a journeyman quarterback. He's a dual threat. But the big thing is that he's seen experience, he's been on the field, and he's seen college football from every which angle. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of Saturdays Only. If you like the video, please like it down below. Comment your questions and concerns. You know me, I love answering you guys' comments. And if we have any Texas Tech fans, how do y'all feel about this? College football fans, how do you feel that he is coming back for a 5th year? And please subscribe on our road to 100 subscribers. Thank you guys so much, and God bless. Peace.